They weren't giving hugs. They didn't really know what affection felt like or what it looked like. They may have seen it in other people's households, but they never quite experienced it. When they get into a relationship, they're going to be like learning a new language. Dismissive avoidants don't slowly fall out of love the way most people do. They don't feel less for you. They feel too much, and their brain solves that by turning that attachment to you off. So to you, it looks sudden. To them, it feels absolutely necessary. And today, I'm going to break down the exact moment the switch flips and why it almost always happens right when the relationship becomes safe. First, I want to talk about the emotional threshold that they have. For me, I define this as emotional flooding. Right. And this is something that's a term. People have used this in psychology. This isn't something that's new. They get flooded when things become too real or when they feel that they don't have the bandwidth to navigate certain types of closeness or to try to conflict resolute or to basically avoid the conflict that they're currently in. Avoidants bond through distance and not the proximity distance, the closeness in the room. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking the emotional distance, the psychological distance that you put between how you're feeling about them and the way they're feeling about you. And it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to a lot of people, but it does if you understand what attachment style theory is all about. Emotional reliance, it activates a loss of autonomy that the dismissive avoidant have. When intimacy increases in that relationship, that's when they feel I need to get away from this. I was just on a call with a lady that had the same exact scenario play out in her relationship. She was so confused because they had finally gotten to this. She gave her a time frame on when they're going to take it to the next level. They've been dating each other for a couple years. She was like, I need a couple months. The next couple months, I want to be able to be in this point in my life, my relationship life. Is that something that you can do? And he agreed. That time came. He got overwhelmed. He got flooded. And he broke off with the relationship, and he feels very guilty for doing so. Have you ever experienced, if you were in a relationship with a dismissive avoidant, that when you guys broke up, they actually became closer to you? They wanted to talk to you more. They wanted to actually hang out with you more. And it doesn't make sense because it's the exact opposite of what you felt they asked for. They asked for the breakup or some time or some space. And now they're the one that's feeling safe enough or bold enough to reach out to you. And when it happens, it's usually because they're not deactivated anymore. Here's what the deactivation process looks like. When they're going through this process of, all right, I don't know if this is the relationship for me, they get really hyper focused on the things that you do wrong. They get focused on your flaws. And honestly, they don't really look at themselves at this time. They're just more like thinking, this is the best relationship decision I can make. It has a lot to do with them being scared and not feeling like they're going to be enough in that relationship too. But that's a story for another day. If you guys want to continue this conversation deeper, I just opened up my Patreon account again, and that link is in the description, or you can talk to me one-on-one through my website at www.fruitfulseeds.com. During the deactivation stage, you'll see things like emotional numbness. They become annoyed or irritated at some of the things that you're asking for in that relationship, which I see a lot isn't anything that's out of the ordinary. It's actually really just standard relationship needs, but they tend to get irritated at that. And they start rewriting the relationship history. If you ever got to the breakup and they start saying things like, well, you never did this, never did that, or you felt this way, or I felt that way, and you didn't listen to me. And I've actually seen where people will call out the person and say, I don't think that's the case. And they'll check themselves. I've seen this happen, not often, where they'll check themselves like, you know what, you're right. I was actually the one that was blowing this up. But what you need to understand is they don't detach because they stop caring about you, all right? They detach so that they can stop feeling responsible for how much they care about you. This is where a lot of people get confused because they feel that they got discarded, and they may be questioning if this person is a narcissist or have narcissistic tendencies, because for you, your experience felt like this connection was growing. It was getting better and better every day, but their experience, they were starting to have this identity crisis, this feeling of enmeshment and engulfment. And because they're not really great at communicating these feelings, their nervous system automatically goes to, let's just eject and get ourselves out of this imminent threat. And of course, because you had all these deep talks with them, you're able to see this scared little boy or girl inside of them. And it just makes you want to get closer and closer and then never let them down. But unfortunately, what happens when you abandon yourself in that way is you open yourself up to devastation when you're not able to keep yourself centered throughout these times. But it sucks because for you, it was something that would happen instantly. And for them, they instantly felt this wave of calmness, like a euphoric feeling of, I had someone explain this to me. They said it just felt like my skin was crawling, like I had to, like I was feeling claustrophobic, almost like in an elevator. And I'm someone that's scared of these tight, confined spaces. That's what the relationship felt like to me. I mean, I've had people who bought packages with me and never reached back out to finish the packages. There were dismissive avoidants because they just didn't want to come back or wasn't ready to confront their nervous system triggers. I might hear from some of them after this video, who knows? But that relief that they feel, it feels very relaxing to them. They can just numb out and go do whatever they like to do. Probably don't have to move their schedule around with any of the things you guys were doing together anymore. But they mistake relief from fear as proof that they lost feelings, right? This is the moment where they become convinced that they made the right decision until they don't. See, this is one thing about dismissive avoidance. They always regret the breakup. I mean, I can't say this enough. I've said this in many, many videos because I've talked to many of them. Now, there are certain types of avoidance. The ones who are leaning more towards that anxious side, they do fear the breakup the most. But if there's someone who has, let's say, they were the person that was really neglected throughout their childhood, meaning they weren't given hugs. They didn't really know what affection felt like or what it looked like. They may have seen it in other people's households, but they never quite experienced it. When they get into a relationship, they're going to be like learning a new language. So I'm learning Spanish right now, and my wife speaks Spanish fluently. And whenever we have these all Spanish speaking days, I'm relieved at the end of the day because I have this image in my mind of just being absolutely perfect at Spanish. And she let me know this is going to take time. You're working a muscle you've never worked before. So don't get discouraged. It's almost like that with dismissive avoidance when they're in relationships. They feel relieved at the end of the day to finally go back to themselves and, for lack of better words, not have to be accountable for someone else's feelings and emotions. The best thing that you can do for your relationship, if you're going through, a relationship with someone that's has an insecure attachment, whether anxious or avoidant, is always stay true to yourself and don't abandon yourself. Because at the end of the day, we have to ask ourselves, what did I have to do or give up in order to make this relationship work? Because if I have to go too far away from my baseline, you're going to end up in a spot where you don't even recognize yourself. So that's all I have for you. I hope you found this video valuable. And always remember, when you go and be loved, you'll never have to find it. God bless.